Hello. Before I started, I actually made a drum loop, just really simple. Just because I didn't want to spend 5 minutes looking for hi-hats and kicks and snares and stuff like that in the middle of the recording. So it sounds like this right now. A few things to note about this is hats. I added a little reverb. You can't even hear it in the drop, but just because I thought the hi-hat sounded a little dry on their own, I just thought they needed that little boost. I stereo shape, is that a word? I used the Fruity Stereo Shaper on the hats and the crash, because when we add the supersaws in, these really high frequencies are going to get clogged. So when they're stereo wide, they do not clog up the frequency range actually. And they sound, in the background and not, at your face where the chord should be. EQ wise, I just did the same EQ for both the hats and the crash. I took out the lows if there were any, usually there aren't. And some of the mids, the high mids. So yeah. Kick and the snare, I didn't actually EQ these, but it's probably recommended that you EQ these to whatever your drop necessitates for you to EQ them as. I did add a compressor onto them though. This Fruity compressor has a preset that's factory default called drums, and it basically just makes them louder, to be honest. It probably seems a little contradictory for me to add a compressor to make them louder and then turn them down a little bit, but it'll make sense later. So this is the sidechain channel. I route all of my stuff into the sidechain channel and then I automate the volume as seen here. I did it already. And yeah, so we are going to start with this preset. It's probably going to be called the same in the file in the description with all the presets, but I like making my chord progressions on this one because it's a clean one as opposed to a detuned one, so you can hear how the melody's going to go and all that stuff. So we're going to make a really simple chord progression real quick. Alright, so this is our chord progression. And yeah. So EQing wise, I just take away the lows and some of the mid-highs because these frequencies in particular are really annoying to listen to. Sometimes I'll add a boost to the highs, not usually on the clean saws, but on the detuned ones I definitely do. And this, I'll explain the routing in a second actually, after I've made all the chord stacks. So now it sounds like this. Alright, next preset is going to be the other clean one, probably called chord 1 still, and I'm just going to copy and paste the chord progression onto it. EQing is probably going to be the same for most of the chord stacks, actually all of them. Just, take out the lows and the mid-highs, or the really high mids, and this one sounds like this now. Alright, the next one is going to be the first detuned chord preset, and it sounds like this. EQing wise is the same, except on... oh, sorry. I usually add... I add a stereo shaper onto this one with the Stereo Wise 3 preset. It's from, FL Studio. It's default. It's the same preset as these two, and they are all from FL Studio. The stereo shaper just basically makes it wider, so it has a lot more presence with the other clean saws, and it sounds like this now. So the last chord stack is made in Silent. It is another detuned one. I usually bring this one up an octave because This one, as opposed to being in one of the lower octaves like with the rest of the chords, it brings a brighter sound to the chords altogether, and it sounds like this. And I'm gonna EQ it just like we just EQ'd the other detuned saw wave, which is, where is it? Stereo shaper and light EQing. So yeah, altogether our chords sound like this. So yeah, why these are all rooted to this first track here is because I learned this from another producer called, and it's basically you add a fruity phaser with these specific, oh my god, it crashed. Alright, yeah, so a fruity phaser with these specific settings, and it basically just gives the saws all together a brighter sound and makes them a little louder. Now they sound like this. Alright, onto the basses. I use 2 basses instead of 3 now. I used 3 in the other tutorial, and I only use 2 now because I think using the 3rd bass was a little redundant because it kind of clogged up the range where I would put the other bass. So the sub bass, if I put it too low, you basically can't hear it. So it's a little low right now. Depending on the project, I'll either put it at the 4th or 5th octave, but it's usually at the 4th, trust me. And it is already rooted to the sidechain channel. Oh, by the way, when you route all of the chords to this channel, you need to route it to the sidechain just because. But sidechaining is all up to you. You can do it separately or by the whatever this is called. And the second chord stack has a lot of high lows to low mids and then a lot of highs, but I usually just take out the highs. And this bass is actually going to be at a lower octave than the sub bass because it gets a little grimy and I like that sound. So EQing this, I just take out 20 to 100 because that's where the sub bass comes in, and I get rid of the highs. You can mess around with the mids, but I don't usually. It's kind of fine the way it is. So, and altogether it sounds like this now with the drums. So the reason this does not sound beautiful yet is because we have not added the multi-band compressors on the master channel yet. So what I do with these is I have 2 multi-band compressors that I add to the master channel, and it is kind of cheating. I mean, it's basically just an easy way out of mastering, but I think it's really helpful, especially when you're a beginner, because I kind of picked these up when I was beginning to combine chord stacks because I didn't know how to make presets. I didn't make these, by the way. So the first one is Maximus. This is factory default in FL Studio. It has this preset called Clear Master, and I use this on most of my songs. It also has these other presets, but I haven't experimented enough to know what these all sound like, but for the time being I just use this one on chord stacks. And the second one is not in FL Studio already. You have to go buy it or download it from somewhere, and it is called Isotope Ozone 5 Dynamics. And I also use a preset on here called Slight Gating, and this basically just, well, both of these combined makes the drop a lot louder along with your drums. It makes everything a lot louder pretty much. But, you know, it keeps the proportions of the frequencies, you know, in check, so your highs and your lows and your mids don't all get clogged together in the same sort of sounds. And now the finished drop sounds like this. Alright, good. I hope this helped out a little, or it did something. I'm going to be dropping the presets in the description, and you can use them as you please. These are not my presets. I have accumulated them over the years, so you can use this project, use the presets, whatever you want, the drums, and I hope this helped.